In 1968, a novelist imagined a test. A simple one, at least on paper. Ask someone a series of carefully chosen questions. Watch their eyes. Measure the blood rising beneath their skin. Record the tiny reactions their body produces before the mind has time to interfere. The test was supposed to answer one question beyond reasonable doubt. Are you human? More than half a century later, we can produce machines that write poetry, offer sympathy, and tell us they understand. But we still cannot build a test that proves whether anything, human or otherwise, is genuinely feeling what it appears to feel. We can measure the reaction. We cannot climb inside it. What's inside the box? Nothing is what it seems. Most people know the Voigt-Kampff test from Blade Runner. A dark room, a bright lens, questions delivered with clinical calm while a machine stares directly into the subject's eye. But the test began in Philip K. Dick's 1968 novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And what it measures is not intelligence, not memory, not eloquence. The androids in Dick's world are already intelligent. They can reason, lie, work, and speak perfectly well. Some are cleverer than the people hunting them. Language will not expose them. The test, therefore, looks beneath language. Its questions describe emotionally disturbing situations, often involving animals. In the devastated world of the novel, real animals have become rare, precious, and almost sacred. Mistreating one is not simply cruel, it is socially obscene. While the subject listens, the machine records involuntary physical responses, changes in the pupil, and the faint dilation of facial capillaries, the blush response. It measures the interval between cruelty being described and the body reacting. Dick's question was not, "Are you clever enough to be human?" It was something smaller, more intimate, and rather more difficult to rehearse. Do you wince? There is something appealing about the idea, the body as an incorruptible witness. Before a dishonest person can arrange a compassionate expression, the eye has already answered. Except bodies are not incorruptible witnesses. They are nervous, inconsistent things. Trauma can flatten a person's reaction. Medication can alter it. Neurological and psychiatric conditions can change how emotion appears from the outside. Some people feel deeply, but express very little. Others display emotion beautifully, while feeling almost nothing at all. Dick understood this problem. In the novel, the possibility that certain human patients could fail an empathy test is not treated as a minor technical fault. It threatens the entire moral authority of the system. Because if a test for humanity can reject a human being, what is it really testing? Nearly 60 years later, our instruments are considerably more sophisticated. We can monitor heart rate, skin conductance, and eye movement. We can observe patterns of brain activity while a person experiences pain or watches someone else suffering. We have learned about networks involved in emotional processing, perspective taking, and social understanding. Mirror neurons are sometimes presented as though they solved the mystery, as if scientists found the small switch marked empathy. They did not. These neurons and related systems may contribute to how we represent another person's actions or experiences, but empathy is not housed in one neat corner of the brain, waiting to illuminate beneath a scanner. It involves perception, memory, attention, bodily response, imagination, and judgment. It can also fail selectively. A person may recognize suffering without sharing it, share it without helping, or help without feeling any visible emotion whatsoever. Science can identify correlations between an experience and a physical signal. That is not quite the same as proving the private experience itself. This is the old philosophical problem of other minds. I know that I feel pain because I experience it. I assume you feel pain because you resemble me, behave as I do, and tell me that you do. It is an entirely reasonable assumption. It is also, technically, an act of trust. We have never possessed direct access to anyone else's consciousness. Human society works because we usually grant one another the benefit of that uncertainty. The android simply makes the uncertainty harder to ignore. Picture two pupils beside one another. One belongs to a human looking at an image of suffering. It dilates because a genuine emotional response has moved through the nervous system. The other belongs to a machine. Its aperture changes by precisely the same amount, at precisely the same moment, because its programming predicts that this is what an empathetic observer should do. From the outside, the movements are identical. One is supposedly feeling, the other is performing. But the instrument sees only two widening circles. Modern language systems have made Dick's problem rather less theoretical. They can produce condolences, reassurance, and emotionally appropriate responses without possessing a human body, childhood, or nervous system. In controlled studies, people have sometimes rated machine-written messages as more empathetic than messages written by humans. That does not establish that the machine feels empathy. It establishes that the performance can be convincing, and we should not be too smug about that distinction. Human beings perform emotion as well. We write sympathy cards when we cannot find the proper words. We ask how someone is, while quietly hoping they will say, fine. We learn expressions of concern from parents, films, and the reactions of other people. Sometimes the performance comes first, the feeling catches up later. If a machine says the right thing because it has learned the patterns of compassionate language, we call it imitation. If a person does the same thing because society taught them what kindness sounds like, we often call it good manners. Perhaps the difference is not that humans never perform empathy. Perhaps it is that we believe something private exists behind the performance. Current research has not established that today's language models are conscious. Serious attempts to assess artificial consciousness rely on multiple theoretical indicators, not charming conversation or a machine's claims about itself. A system saying, "I understand," is evidence that it can generate the sentence. It is not evidence of an inner witness, but this leaves us with a profoundly awkward problem. If consciousness eventually appears in some future machine, its first-person claims may look exactly like the imitations we have already learned to dismiss. The machine says, "I'm frightened." We answer, "No, you are producing the language of fear." The machine asks how we can be certain, and suddenly the test is facing in the wrong direction. Which brings us to the title of Dick's novel. Do androids dream of electric sheep? The question sounds whimsical until one notices what it is really asking. Not whether an android can calculate, whether it has a private world when nobody is watching. Does it dream? Does it desire? Does an artificial animal matter to an artificial person? Or is each merely helping the other maintain an acceptable performance? The novel is quieter and stranger than its film adaptation. There is no "tears in rain" speech. Instead, it gives us exhausted people using mood-altering machines, neglected animals, and an empathy-based religion experienced through a device literally called an empathy box. People grasp its handles and feel themselves joined to the suffering of others. Even empathy has become mediated by technology. Humans require a machine to feel connected. Machines are condemned because we assume they cannot. That contradiction is where the story becomes uncomfortable. The androids can be cold and frightening, but the humans hunting them can also lie, kill, and reduce thinking beings to categories. The empathy test does not merely discover a moral boundary, it helps enforce one. And once a society owns a machine that certifies who deserves compassion, people tend to stop asking whether the machine's definition was just in the first place. Dick's warning was not simply that androids might become indistinguishable from humans. It was that humans might become remarkably comfortable, behaving like the creatures they feared. Picture a mirror. Now picture a crack moving slowly down its center. Behind the glass is another mirror. Behind that, another. Every reflection repeats the same expression. Each one appears concerned, and not one can prove what the others feel. So, what's inside the box? Not an android. Not this time. Just a mirror. Except the surface no longer returns your reflection. It gives you static, a blank, patient glow. You speak, and something inside answers in your voice. You tell it that compassion cannot be reduced to choosing the correct words. It asks whether you have always meant every compassionate word you have spoken. You say that a physical reaction would prove the difference. It asks whether everyone who reacts differently is therefore less human. Philip K. Dick imagined a test for catching machines that pretended to be people. But the test could observe only behavior, only timing, only the surface of the eye. It could detect a difference. It could not tell us why that difference deserved to decide who lived. And perhaps that was the real warning. We keep searching for a final sign of humanity, a blush, a flinch, a perfect answer, because uncertainty frightens us. Yet humanity may not be something a machine can confirm. It may be something we choose to recognize in one another, despite never being able to see it directly. What's inside the box is the question no one has built a reliable test for. Not, how would you know if the machine were pretending? Something quieter, something facing the other way. How would you know if you were the one pretending? That's what was inside the box.